Hello, welcome to the MuseScore Café for today, Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. My name is Marc Sabatella, and I'm the Director of Education for MuseScore. This is my weekly series of informal chats where we pick some topic to talk about and we kind of talk about it. I demonstrate some things. Y'all can ask me questions and say what you will. And let me make sure sound is happening because that's always an issue. Um, I am having slight technical and other things that I've been using Zoom, I've been using YouTube and other things, and so getting all my settings back the way they need to be for the cafe, I had to fiddle with for a moment. So let's make sure that everything's good. I'm hoping y'all can hear me because, as always, that's my concern is that somehow I'm not making sound. So I will keep talking, but will love it if someone says I'm freezing up occasionally. That is good to know. That could be at your end, but if it's working at all, then I feel like I'm ahead of the game. Um, okay, all right. So, yeah, there's just still so much going on in the world, and it's just amazing everything that's happening. So, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I've been up to. So, in the last couple of weeks, so the school where I teach, Regis University, has gone to all online, which, no surprise there. Pretty much everyone's had to do that lately. And so yesterday was my first day of actually teaching private piano lessons online. I've done private lessons teaching theory, teaching MuseScore, done private lessons through Skype or whatnot, but now we're using Zoom officially through Regis, and I hadn't really taught piano lessons specifically, but luckily I'd already figured out how to get a good video set up at the piano when I did that Sonata Pathétique demo, which I'll probably um, revisit here in a cafe coming up. So anyhow, those are just some of the things that I wanted to mention about what I've been doing. Oh, and then the online theory course that I've been mentioning periodically, I am extremely close to being done with, like within a few days of being done. So I'll probably talk about that more next week. I'm fiddling with my phone here just to make sure I can monitor the chat on my phone. Um, but I can also monitor it just by flipping windows here, which is fine because I'll want to paste. So anyhow, the topic I have. Oh, what the heck! Look at that. No, I don't want to do anything right now. Um, I have the Sibelius first, and that was telling me it was time to update or something, apparently. Um, all right, so all that said, my plan for today is just to kind of keep talking about the process of music making in times of whatever, times like this. And specifically, maybe we talk about the idea of actually creating music for the purpose of dealing with whatever is happening in life. And there's a huge um, what's the word I'm looking for? Tradition of composers writing music for events or things. And for some reason, one that comes to mind is Beethoven writing a piece for Napoleon and then deciding, Napoleon, after Napoleon starts becoming more of a dictator and less of a heroic figure, deciding, oh, well, that's not really um, not really. I don't want to dedicate this to Napoleon anymore. Anyhow, that was like one piece of music that came to mind. We might listen to that in a little bit. But so I have a question for any of you who are out here right now. Have you guys been doing any of this? Have you been especially currently thinking about creating music specifically for the occasion, as it were, or if you have pieces that have been written that are designed to speak to a wide audience about a topic? What talking about like having music address a topic is always an interesting thing because music is so often associated with lyrics, and it's easy to imagine lyrics addressing a topic, right? I mean, we do this all the time with lyrics, but having the music itself address the topic is sort of another matter. And well, maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe writing the lyrics for it and just putting the music to the lyrics is enough, and we can certainly look at that. If there's any words that we want to set to music. And so maybe that's actually something that we're going to look at today, is just the idea of setting words to music, because maybe that's an angle to approach this with. So how to write a legato of a note has two steps further. So unfortunately, I don't really understand. I'm guessing maybe by legato you mean a slur, and maybe you're referring to the slurs which are on the lines palette here. So, you can enter as many notes as you want, and then you can click one note, shift click another note, or shift click another note or another note, select a range of notes, press S, or click the slur. You got yourself a slur. So maybe that's what you mean. And if so, I hope that answers your question. This reminds me that I need to return on the thing I had turned off, which is my thingamajiggy where I can you can see my keystrokes. So let me get that happening in a sec here. There we go. Now you can see what I'm clicking. All right. So so that's yeah, one of the things that we might talk about is the idea of setting lyrics to music. And this is something that I've done some. One of the subjects that comes up when you're writing music with lyrics, so we just talk about whatever comes up. One of the things that comes up is, well, do you write the music first and then put lyrics to it? Or do you write the lyrics first and then put music to it? Or do you do them together? And to be honest, I've done all three. The idea of taking existing lyrics and setting them to music is probably the one I've done probably the least often, but I have done some of that, and that's something that I can definitely speak to. It's an interesting thing, is how to best convey, not just make sure the syllables line up with the notes well, but to really convey something. And so that's something that we can definitely look at. I'm fumbling with my phone because I still want to get the chat up here. So give me another moment to fiddle, and I will have the chat finally. Okay, now I can see chat. Yay. So I'm gonna just talk about that for a moment. Does anyone have a suggestion for a lyric? Oh, you don't need my sound on my phone. Okay, so I'm gonna just take some. You don't want to just take random words, because part of what's going on here is talking about meaning. So let's take a I don't know. I have a dream. I'm going to just take that, the famous Martin Luther King Jr. Speech with the I have a dream section to it. If I wanted to set I have a dream to music, there's a couple things to think about when doing this. Well, first of all, you're going to have to think about, well, what is it? What kind of instrumentation am I writing for? Is it an a cappella choir piece, or is there like a piano accompaniment or orchestra accompaniment? There's all these things to deal with, but let's not deal with that right now. Let's first just think about setting the lyric to music. And so I have this lyric that says I have a dream, and we know, because we know the speech, that dream, that line is going to come back. Ooh, you wrote a song called Distancing? Is that some? Okay. Distancing, got it. Great. So, oh, that's awesome. Was there a lyric? If there was a lyric, I'd love to hear about that. But maybe we could just come up with one if you guys want to like sort of brainstorm one while I ramble on here. That would be really cool. So in my teaching yesterday, I should mention, I'm y'all have seen me talk enough. Those of you who have seen these before. In my teaching, I was talking about to one of my students about how to take notes and figure out what chord they were. He had these four notes and he didn't know what chord they represented. We were actually analyzing the Chopin E minor prelude, and we were talking about analyzing what notes were formed by the what chord was formed by the notes. And I said, we need to rearrange these so that these two notes aren't next to each other. Get a little social distancing between the notes. And so, yeah, I managed to work social distancing into my teaching yesterday like that several times. Okay, so let's talk a little more again about the idea of taking a lyric and setting it to music. So with I Have a Dream, we know that that line is going to come back. And so we're probably going to want to have a similar melody each time it comes back, or maybe two different melodies for it, because we know that thing is going to come back so often. Maybe we have a one version of the melody that's used the first time an idea is introduced, and then a faster version of the melody that's used every time he repeats it within a stanza or something. So that's a way I might think about it. The other thing to think about is the pacing of this. There's a definite tradition over the course of the last few centuries to make lyrics faster. What do I mean by this? Well, if this was a Renaissance piece, it would be I'm just singing random notes, but I mean, we'd be singing a bunch of syllables to each note. It would take at least 8 measures, assuming we're writing with measures at all, because in Renaissance music maybe you don't, but the equivalent of at least 8 measures just to sing I Have a Dream. So that's a typical Renaissance pacing of lyric. In most popular music, it wouldn't work that way at all, right? It would just be I Have a Dream takes exactly a beat to say I have a dream. That's 4/16 notes. You could do that. Boom, boom. I have a dream. Boom, boom. Right? It could be like a rap type of thing happening. So these are two kind of extremes, and then you can look at the whole songwriting tradition of the 19th and early 20th centuries, and all throughout the 20th century, really, where it might be, I have a dream, dun, 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 and now we're talking like quarter notes per syllable. So that's the thing. Are we talking multiple measures per syllable? Are we talking quarter notes per syllable? Are we talking about 16th notes per syllable? These are all viable ways of organizing your music to the lyric. And then you want to maybe think about which really fits the mood of your lyrics, fits the idea of what it is that you're trying to say. So my mind lately has been in the world of Renaissance music some, or choral music in general. I don't necessarily want to go completely to that extreme, but if I were to take that and think about, well, the inspirational message of I Have a Dream, somehow the idea of not patterning it to actual speech, because really the sort of rap version, the 16th notes, I Have a Dream, that's what really mimics the pattern of speech the best. I mean, maybe it's a little fast. I have a dream, maybe 8th notes instead of 16th notes, maybe would be a little closer to how we might have spoken that. Because there's something that's a little artificial about I have a dream, singing these quarter notes per note. There's huge tradition of songs written that way, but then the way they are typically interpreted is to then compress these lines. Like if I had I'll take it down. Dream that bad. Oops. Let's have quarter note. Boo ba doo. Boo doo. I guess I'm playing an F. So let me just give myself some F key signature here. I will drag. All right. So this is like my pickup to this melody. I've made up a melody. We know that line happens very often. I'm not worried about fitting exact lyrics to it right now. But if I were actually singing that, instead of one, I have a dream, da, 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 boo, boo, doo. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I have a dream, boo ba da, boo ba dum. So I've compressed things, da 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 da, do da da, boo doo dum. So I've kind of compressed the notes. This is a hallmark of singing of popular music. I mean, I can attribute it to, I could say it's jazz singing, but it's not just jazz singing. It's the way people would have sung songs back in the 19th century. Also, it's not necessarily about literally singing all those quarter notes and dotted half notes. And so sometimes you create a melody that you intend to be a sort of a generic representation of that melody when you put it down on paper. And then if a singer is singing it, they're going to take liberties with it. And that's all well and good if it's a solo singer. Maybe you then contrast that with another section where it's a whole choir singing, and then they actually do need to sing together. And then you ask yourself, well, do I want this really straight quarter note and half note version of things, or do you want to write in those personalizations of the rhythm to make it feel more natural? This is probably a more modern approach to arranging for choral ensembles. I don't know that a lot of the choral music of the 19th century would have a lot of that kind of concession to the cadence of speech. I think it's probably more typical that you would see the arrangement in, say, 19th century choral music that keeps a little more to this musical simplicity of the quarter notes. But the idea of writing in rhythms that reflect the speech is a little more of a modern invention. A little bit more. So I'm not saying no one ever did it before. So that's something to think about. The other aspect to think about to this is, all right, well, so at this point, since I'm talking about I Have a Dream and I'm writing some specific notes, it is time to look up some actual lyrics. Yeah, I'm sure I'm... All right. Is this I don't know if that's the beginning or not. Well, it's not the beginning of the speech, right? He sort of eases into it from other stuff, and I guess that's the deal. So here we go. Let's go with this. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up. If I look at this melody I came up with, this is sort of a generic melody, but there is definitely a long tradition of taking a generic melody and making it specific to lyrics. So if I want to make this, I have a dream that. So one day this nation. One day this nation. I don't think that is an appropriate way. So okay, so here's one thing about this. As long as we're just talking about putting lyrics to rhythms, nation, the accent is on nay, not shun, right? So splitting it up so that we have nay here and shun here, that's not necessarily appropriate. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's not natural. It might make more sense to say that one day this nation, one day this nation. So maybe make this day, one day. Oh, I've moved this into 3, haven't I? I have a dream that one day. Oops. Okay. So what I'm doing is now going to take this phrase and move it over by a beat. Watch how I do this. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to enter a rest here, and now I'm going to come here and paste it. So, one, this nation. No, that one day this nation. So that one day this nation. Then I have to ask myself, are those still the exact pitches I want? But whatever. These are the sorts of decisions you make. You think about where the accents naturally fall in the words, and then you think about how this is going to fit your melody. I'll write this as a half note, but this is another aspect of personal interpretation. Maybe singing that, I'm not going to sing one day. I might sing one day this nation, or however I'm going to do this. Don't assume that just because a note is written as a long note, that means everyone is necessarily going to want to sing that as a long note. We might choose to sing it as a short note. So that's another thing to be thinking about here. So I don't see. I could use some more people giving me some ideas to think about here. Like I said, I'm happy to just kind of keep going. I'll talk about lyrics for a little bit. I'll talk about orchestration, talk about other things, and really think about what this means. But I might then look at that same phrase. So yeah, we know that phrase does something else, goes somewhere else. But then later on, we're going to have that same phrase, right? This nation will rise up. Okay, but then I have a dream that one day on the red hills. So that one day, instead of this nation, I need on the red hills. Well, maybe I want to reuse that melody, right? Maybe I still want to have it be something about, make sure, stop streaming. I'm still streaming. Okay. Maybe I want, I got to remind myself of the lyric again. I have a short memory sometimes. One day on the red hills of Georgia. That one day on the red hills. So maybe this is going to be 2 eighth notes so that it can be on the right? So here I've taken that same melodic idea. Remember, originally this was quarter notes on the, so maybe on the, so maybe I actually go back to my original idea. But I could go one day on the red hills. I could do that, or I could go back to my original idea. One day on the red hills, right? One day on the. Oh, I'm going to do another little trick here. So here's another little MuseScore trick for you. I did something. I kind of liked it, but then I wanted to try something else, and I just obliterated what I already had there. That was a mistake. I probably should have copied it and pasted it first. Well, it's not too late. Let's copy paste this now. I'm going to copy this. Okay? I'm not going to paste it. I'm just going to copy it. So I did Control C. Now I'm going to undo those changes. So I have my eighth note version, and now I can paste my original version. So that's a little clever little trick that I've bailed myself out with several times. When I had something I kind of liked, I then did something else. I said, oh, let me try this other thing, and I kind of obliterate my original thing with the new thing, and then realized, oh, wait a minute, I still want to see the original. So I've used that trick before, the copy, undo, paste trick. Hills are high, get up with the melody. Okay, yeah, so there's another nice thing. So I will mention this in 2 ways. There's a phrase that we use in English when we do things with the melody to specifically reflect the lyric. So hills are high, maybe the melody should go up. This is a term that is sometimes used for this is word painting. Word painting meaning to actually really specifically take the meaning of that word and somehow make it reflect in, if the words are about going fast, you have a bunch of 16th notes, or if the words are about going slow, you use whole notes or whatever. So yes, the idea that maybe we want to go up is good. In addition to that, I would also say, I don't really need the inspector at the moment. Let's say goodbye to the inspector. I used literally the same melody twice, and then all I did was change the rhythm. Well, the other thing you might do in setting a lyric to music is take the idea of this, but then have it be different. So I have a dream that one day this nation. I'm not crazy about how this all works with the melody, but that's okay. I'm not. That's not. That's because I just randomly threw some notes in. But maybe the next thing, I have a dream that one day on the red hills, or something. You want a sort of a call and response, a question and answer aspect where you're using this phrase, but one time it's going down, another time it's going up, independently of the lyric. But then you might decide, well, which time do I go up? Which time do I go down? And maybe Red Hills is my answer. That one day on. I'm trial and erroring this. Shift Alt up, by the way, move up diatonically. On the red hills, control up. So now I have two different versions of this thing. Have a dream and one day this nation. And then it's going to do some other stuff, right? Because we know there's some more lyrics there. Then when the next verse comes in, or maybe Red Hill, maybe it keeps going up. I call this another verse, but literally I wouldn't call it another verse now, because now we've changed the melody too much to just call it another verse. It's just another section to the song. Usually if I use the word verse, I'm literally going to kind of keep to the same melody with only these minor variations of rhythm. And then I'm going to set the lyrics, the different lyrics, to pretty much literally the same melody. And I don't know that the speech is going to work well for that. And, at this point, I'm probably going to I think I've gotten the mileage that I want to get out of this particular speech. Because, I don't want to necessarily have it just be about the speech. But it's a lovely, inspirational speech. But I want to talk more about the, the general idea of writing music for a purpose that's a timely purpose. This is a timeless speech, really. But it doesn't matter whether the topic is timeless or timely. It's the principles might be the same either way. So the idea of setting the lyric, and this was a setting that used this sort of traditional song style of essentially quarter notes per syllable. I mentioned, there's maybe the more rap-oriented style of, I have a dream. I have a dream. So it could be, I have a dream. And now that was dotted eighth, 16th, dotted eighth. So the first thing that I actually sang was, I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. Yeah, it's just 4/16ths, basically the way I'm singing it. So this is a way I could line that up. If I was writing that kind of song, it would be a little hard to put many different notes in this. It's why this type of rhythm lends itself more to a spoken approach. But that is certainly a valid way of organizing things. Another maybe slightly in between these extremes is maybe, I have a dream. I'm thinking to myself, if I picture Dr. King's actually speech, he's actually, he does run those words together, but not fast. And maybe if I thought of it as 4/8 notes. I have a dream. I have a dream. Maybe that's even better. So I'm going to enter a rest for an eighth note. I have a dream. 1, 2. No, I'm going to do it this way. 1, and then 1, 2. I have a dream. I have. Whoops, I didn't mean that. I'm going to tie. I use 2 different keyboards and they're 2 different layouts. So, okay, anyhow, this is that same melody that I had before, but now with a rhythm that's more reflecting of the speech. Yeah, I thought about triplets also, and yeah, I have a dream. If you want to put dream on 1, so here's another possibility where I go 5, 3. Okay. So this is a possibility. Also, let me actually move this over. There we go. So here's another possibility, and I don't know if this is exactly how you were hearing the triplets, but it's a way I heard them. Oops. Just another variation of this idea. Now we could also have, well, yeah, that's basically yet another version. So there's different ways that we could imagine the pacing of the lyrics relative to it. And as I said, there's our sort of Renaissance idea. And if I really want to get the Renaissance thing, because I love this stuff, I can't help myself, I'm going to add another staff so that we can have something truly choral seeming. And I'm going to go no, not even there's a thing that happens all the time. I'm gonna do a poor man's I have a dream. So I just took 4 measures to sing. Whoops. I have a dream. Right. So I'm taking this. Now, if this were the Renaissance piece, we'd be using some imitative counterpoint, which is just so fun that I have to try it. So I'm going to put in the same melody offset by, I'm going to make it be 2 beats offset just to see what happens. I could be a lot more kind of scientific about this and really think through it, but I'm just going to do some trial and error on it. And realistically, what I'm saying when I say I'm going to do some trial error on it, I'm just going to put these notes in here and see, well, do I like it? No, it's too back and forthy. So I'm going to undo that, but now this time I'm going to paste it here. I think the problem is this repeated C is really not making me happy. So let me change this to E. So I'm allowed to do this. It's my piece. Let me try this again over where I had it. Now it's still too repeaty, but also that's down to the fact that this is repeating at the same pitch level. I'm going to move it down an octave, but realistically what I really want to do is come in at the 5th. And in other words, this one started on Sol. I want to come in on Do. And now see what I got. All right, now it's got this more Renaissance-y feel. Now, what happens though is if this was a real Renaissance piece, we'd be looking at this and really analyzing our intervals and talking about whether the dissonances are lining up where they need to be. And if it was a Baroque piece, we'd be really making sure that functional harmony-wise it was all working. But this what I just did, just writing a line and then putting it in counterpoint with itself, maybe transposing it as necessary or offsetting it, and just going with it the way it is. In my mind, this is Aaron Copland for you. So this to me somehow feels very, it's taking a diatonic melody, setting it against itself in counterpoint, and just letting the harmonies be. Not worrying a whole lot about exactly where the dissonances are, how they resolve, whether it really adds up to what we would want it to add up to if this were Bach writing it or if it were Palestrina writing it. So that, I don't know, has a bit of a Copland feel to it. I also want to see what happens if I do wait until another measure to come. Oops, I don't want to start there. Let me undo this. Let's start here. I just want to paste this line to start at the beginning of the measure. Now notice, by the way, when I offset it, it created all these tied notes that I no longer need. Well, I'm going to use Tools, Regroup Rhythms, and that kind of fixes those things. It's not perfect. It's not going to do everything you need it to, but it does a pretty decent job. There's actually a sense in which, like, living with this major seventh that we get here now, it really reminds me of Copland specifically. But I would the F and F here wasn't making me as happy. I might want to change notes around some more if I did it. I was actually, I think, happier with it the way I had it over here. So I'm just going to go back to that. Anyhow, if you do these things, one of the things to realize is to what it is different ways of setting the lyric is going to affect how it how understandable the lyrics are. If you stretch out things too far, it makes it hard to understand. On the other hand, you compress it too much, it makes it hard to understand. The simplicity of this melody that I kind of started with is maybe the most understandable way to set a lyric if you're just speaking it and not trying to take it to pitch. Then this, I Have a Dream, is also a perfectly understandable way. You know, you'll understand the singer that way. But often it can be hard when people get into this whole, you know, I'm a singer and I'm going to and I'm singing whatever my lyric. Well, at this point, you don't even know I'm singing the word I, because in English, you don't know it's I until we reach the end of the word and kind of I, right? It's a diphthong, I think is the word, and maybe that's unique to English. But long notes in English, sometimes you can't even tell what the vowel is until the end of the note. So this way of setting an English lyric anyhow is problematic just for that reason. But it can be just from the perspective of keeping track of what's been said. If it takes 8 measures to say I have a dream, then you might forget what's been said by the time you get to those 8 measures. So that's something else to think about. Okay, so lyrics. Yeah, I didn't necessarily know I was going to talk about lyrics, but that's what I ended up talking about. Let's also just talk a little bit about the musical setting and the mood and the orchestration. I mentioned the Beethoven piece. So I believe I'm in my head conflating 2 stories. So let's all right. So this is the main story that I care about here is the 3rd Symphony. And I'm going to guess that on MuseScore, someone has put that sucker in here. Let's see. So there's a piano solo. That guy does a good job. But I want to see if First movement, exposition only. Yeah, I really was wanting a Classic Man version because that guy really rocks on this stuff. But whatever. Let's just hear. Oh wow, losing a mix with the oh, so this is actually using someone else's arrangement on it here. That does sound interesting. So, hello. So that's a piano reduction of what was originally an orchestra piece, uh, and Beethoven wrote it. If you go to Wikipedia and read the story on it, there's the classic story that it was. I guess actually it's the third movement. Um, no, it's. I thought it. I saw it say because I always thought that story was about the symphony as a whole and the first movement. Um, oh, oh, the third symphony, of course. Yeah. Okay. So the whole symphony was dedicated to Napoleon in the beginning, and then he uh, decided um, decided to change this. Um, so anyhow, this is a very heroic sounding piece in its sort of original incantation. So if I can find a YouTube version that I can play for you, I'll take this.
To fly a rocket ship, you need to be an optimist.
Yeah, shut up.
No astronaut launches for space.
Yeah. Let's just hear a little bit. What did you get here? So that's where I wanted to get to, is where the brass, kind of come in and make it sound that much more heroic. So one of the reasons why that piece came to mind was it was a piece originally written as a dedication to one person, and the story goes that once he realized that Napoleon wasn't who he thought he was, who Beethoven thought he was, he just rededicated the symphony to heroism in general. And taking a piece and writing it for one purpose and then repurposing it a little bit for another is this time-honored tradition. Also, any number of songs that were originally written for one purpose have been repurposed for other ones. I mean, I know the story of Yankee Doodle was originally being a song that the British were using to taunt the American soldiers with, and the American soldiers just decided to own it and say, no, this is our thing now. And this was something they were going to take pride in. The things that the British thought the Americans were silly over, they said, no, this is our thing. So there's another example of that. I also know, like, the song, I was thinking when I was a kid, again, dating myself here, We Are the World was a song that came out to raise money for one cause, and now it's being considered as a new anthem to maybe have a new recording of it to raise money specifically to deal with coronavirus. So that is something that I learned when I was reading just a little bit, just doing a little research to prepare. I do prepare a little for these things, not a ton, but I prepare a little. Mostly I just like to talk. So anyhow, so if there's some song that someone may have written for some other purpose, then they say, oh no, now we have this new purpose. We can take this song and just rededicate it. Either put different words to it or look at the words and say they're generic enough, like I think is the case with We Are the World. Or in the case of Eroica, it didn't have words. It was the music spoke to a certain mood, and then you just, well, what other thing has that mood? Maybe I don't want to apply that mood to Napoleon specifically anymore, but I can apply it to something else that has that mood. So I don't know. So the idea of creating a mood through music is definitely a thing also, and that goes again more than just whether you're talking about speaking to a particular event or you just want to have a song about happiness or something. That's fine too, and you want, happy sounding songs. So so yeah, I just wanted to talk about this topic and see what came of it. And I guess for some reason I got on a lyric thing, and that's fine. Hopefully that ends up being a little bit useful to someone. And without having more people with more questions, I think I'm probably going to just wrap up about here and let you know a little bit about some things coming up. As I mentioned, I'm almost finished with my basic theory course that I've been working on now for the better part of the last year. So, I mean, I've been working on it exclusively, but juggling it with other things. But yeah, I've been putting a lot of work into it. So I'll talk about that some next time, because I expect I'll be done with it. But I also know that we're getting ready to release, well, we're getting ready to be ready to release MuseScore 3.5. So MuseScore 3.5 is going to be a big enough release, not one giant new thing, but a lot of little new things, quite a lot of little new things that will probably end up having like a beta release for 3.5. I'm sort of guessing here, but I think it's a good guess. And it's entirely possible that that might happen around next week. Or it might not. We might just keep stringing in some new things here and there and then wait a few more weeks on it. But anyhow, those are a couple things that I know will be coming up that I will want to talk about. I also want to do another interview thing. I enjoyed doing that interview with Philip a few weeks ago, and so I want to do a series of these, and so I want to start lining up some people, and I'll definitely take suggestions from all of you as to who you might actually want to, who you want to hear from. Okay, so again, I think I'm gonna sign off at this point, and I'm actually gonna. Yesterday, between my teaching and recording videos, I just blew out my voice. But I do have more videos to record for my course, and with any luck, I will finish recording videos in the next day or two, and I'll get to again talk about that a little bit more next week. So I hope everyone is staying safe. Hope you're all staying healthy, and I wish you a good week and talk to you next time. Bye.